In this lesson, we want to focus on how cell parts work together. So we're going to look at cell parts and how we can group them together. For example, here are some cell parts that are involved with cell structure. So the cytoskeleton, just like the human skeleton, gives the cell structure. The human skeleton gives your body structure. So it gives you shape and form. Just like the human skeleton is made out of bones and ligaments, things like that, the cell structure is made out of microtubules. So micro just means small, tubule means they're like a tube. Microfilaments. So you can take a look at the picture here and see some examples of microtubules. They look like a tube, and filaments that kind of fill in these little like fibers that are going in all directions. The microtubules are useful for things like centrioles, cilia, flagella, and I'll show you a picture of what those things are, but they can help cells be mobile. The cytoplasm is the fluid inside the cell, and that again gives the cell shape because it's filled with that fluid, mostly water in this case. So here's an example of a picture of a cell with some cytoplasm. It's just a fluid that fills the inside of that cell. Here's a picture of flagella and cilia. Flagella is that long kind of whip-like tail. Cilia are the smaller kind of finger-like projections that stick out, kind of like oars on the old-time boat that help kind of propel the cell. In this case, a little single-celled organism. Centrioles are useful for cell division. Now, you only find these in animal cells, but you can notice they're tube-shaped, so they're going to be made of microtubules, and they're useful to make sure when the cell divides, all the parts are divided equally. Here's another category. This category is making and processing protein. So here are the organelles involved in making and processing protein. We have things like the nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, Golgi apparatus, and vesicles. When proteins are processed, it starts in the nucleus. The DNA in the nucleus is copied by a messenger RNA that leaves the nucleus and moves to the ribosomes in the rough ER. Those ribosomes will assemble the proteins, and then when those proteins leave the ER, they take some of the wall with it. That wall surrounds that protein. Those are called vesicles. Sometimes the vesicles, though, are transported to the Golgi apparatus where they're modified and tagged, and then they leave through the cell membrane. Sometimes those are like hormones that need to be exported or proteins that need to be exported to other parts of the body. Here are some organelles involved in energy production, the mitochondria and the chloroplast. You're only going to find a chloroplast in a plant cell where it can perform photosynthesis. The mitochondria takes glucose, breaks it down into ATP. So long as there's oxygen present, the mitochondria can make a lot of ATP for energy. Chloroplasts you only find in plant cells. They're absorbing sunlight and using that sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into sugar through the process of photosynthesis. Here are some organelles involved in protecting the cell. The cell membrane separates the cell from the external environment. The cell wall, which you only find in plant cells, gives that cell shape and protects it, again, from external things. Lysosomes are small sacs inside of a cell. They contain digestive enzymes to help break down worn-out cell parts, break down invading bacteria, break down all kinds of things that might enter the cell, toxins and things like that. Vacuoles also protect the cell, but because they store things. So like they store water or they store food resources, so that's protecting the cell whenever the cell's in adverse conditions. Here's a picture of a vacuole. You can notice the difference between a plant cell vacuole and an animal cell vacuole. The plant cell vacuole is very large compared to an animal cell vacuole. Here's a cell wall. You'll notice it's only in plants, and it's, again, protecting that plant. Cell membranes, you'll find those in animals. That cell membrane separates the cell from the external environment. Now, plant cells also have a cell membrane. Lysosomes, they're filled with digestive enzymes, and anything that enters the cell that might do it harm or things inside the cell, like old worn out cell parts, can be broken down by lysosomes. So we can look at not just the cell parts and what they do, but how these cell parts work together to perform some larger jobs or bigger functions.